Hey, what's up, y'all? It's DJ Fanatic, content contributor for Liveoffbeats.com, coming at you with another video. Actually, this is a beat breakdown of one of my most popular beats and probably one of my favorite beats to this day. I had a lot of really cool things I did in the beat, and I thought I'll share with you so that way you learn different techniques and also things that could help you out when you're in your productions as well. This beat is an R&B beat. Has an R&B vibe anyway, and it has some samples, basically a loop in it that I did some cool little chops or whatever. I can show you some cool stuff with that. I said cool twice, so that means it's really cool. So anyway, if you like to follow me, you can actually follow me on Instagram at DJ Fanatic Beats, or Instagram as well at Sounds for Producers. So check it out. With this beat, I'm wondering why it was so successful. I think it's the choices of samples, loop I chose, and also the elements that I added on top of these loops. So I'll play the beat, let you hear the intro, and we'll work it out, and I'll show you the rest of the things I did. This beat is amazing. I think so. Hopefully you like it so far. And it's I forgot actually this beat is called Miss Cruise. So yeah. Anyway, and when it comes to beat names, don't overthink it. A good way to name beats is like just go with the first three things that's on top of your head. Like you listen to the beat and in a word or two or a small phrase, try to figure out, what that beat is telling you. That's one way. Also, when I name beats, you can also think of it as, what's a hot term right now, like what's a trending term, and that correlates with the type of beat, because you want to think of it as a business idea too, because you want to you don't want to name this beat ice cream sandwich, you know what I'm saying? You can, but maybe the audience won't get it, so you kind of have to think on that perspective as well, especially when you're naming beats and you want it to connect with a certain targeted audience. You kind of want to use that type of naming that they can refer to or relate to. That's the word I'm looking for. So anyway, on to the beat. I started out with this cool loop, and loops you can do so many different things with. This I actually chose to do some chops, audio chops, in the playlist window itself. I didn't use Edison. I didn't use Serato sample. I did it straight into the piano roll playlist window. Excuse me. And you can do it as well. This is a cool technique. So let's just solo that. I already did. So this is what I use. See, what I did is just I cut the audio with your slice tool, and then with this tool here, the slip tool, you can move the audio around within that region. What I think I did, it's been a while since I made this beat. What I think I did actually is just use a slice tool and then just drag the audio based on the snap grid. So I kind of pasted the sample instead of playing it performance wise, because like if you have hardware, which I do as well, but if you have hardware, you can kind of like make your samples and then just play the performance. What I did is arrange them in the piano window. Why do I keep saying piano window? The playlist window. So and that's what I did here as well. I actually just use the slice tool. You slice anywhere you want, and then you can kind of spend some time on figuring out what you want this loop or sample to do. You notice there's a lot going on in it already. That's probably why I didn't want to use it at first, but as I added more elements on it, I made it my own. So that's a cool way that you can make samples a lot more unique, is just actually slicing them and just piecing them together to something that you flow with, something that you think sounds kind of cool. And I was just actually messing around and came up with this second part right here. See, it makes it sound like I actually used the plugin to do a stutter effect, but I actually created that. So, you can dig deep inside beats like this and just spend some time just on a sample alone. And once you got something really dope down, you can, it'll build from there. Because once you have a nice foundation, it just flows effortlessly. So always have a good foundation. Spend some time on it. Don't rush it. A beat like this, I was actually in a nice chill mode, and I was like, yeah, let me make an R&B beat. And I ran across this sample, which is pretty dope, and I just did a couple things. So anyway, moving on to the other elements. Let's see, let's make that smaller. Next I had I think it was like a pad that I added, so let's see what that was. So what I did is just use like a soft synth, and I think expand 2, and you notice I used 2 octaves. So because the sound was so soft, and I kind of wanted a high part and a low part, and I thought it complemented the sample well. So sound choice, sound selection. When you're making music, think about it, because you don't want to add elements that don't sound good together. And trust me, your audience will let you know ASAP, because they can't relate to it. So these two together, of course, they sound dope. These synths were actually more like an ambiance for background, but those subtleties can make your music sound really good. So check it out. So once I had that, and it's important to play in the key of the sample. There's different ways to find the key. One old school way, I mentioned this in another video, but one old school way is to actually play one note, and if you can sustain that one note within the sample, that makes it sound like that sounds pleasing to the ear. Usually that's the key of the song. Like if you held one note down while that sample played, and think of it as like a note that's ending the song, that definitely helps your ear and ear training as well. That's a not so precise way. Of course, you can drag it into, I think Serato Sample will let you know what key it is. There's online ways you can do it as well. Just you can go search engines or whatever and find ways to find keys of loops that way, especially if they didn't list it in a loops. Notice this is just BPM, and I think that's the name, I don't know, but they didn't put the key of it. So when you don't have that, you can find it, or just play notes that you think sound good into it. Eventually you'll get there if you don't have that type of ear yet, but you'll get there where you can tell that notes actually fit in the key. So next I added, which I really liked, I think it was a harp. Which sounds great. And I didn't mention before, notice that there's 2 different patterns here. So you kind of want movement in your music. Notice this is a long pattern, but I changed it from this, the soft synth that I use, I changed it from this melody to this melody, and had it moving for every 4 bars, I believe. So yeah, always have movement inside your music, so that way, you know, it's just not stagnant. And also it shows your flexibility as a producer too. You know, you can step it up. So next, I think it was just like a cymbal or something. Yep. So it's an open hi-hat. It's a good way to start a beat. It's just, you know, you can always put different things at the beginning, whether it's a vocal stab or a cymbal or whatever, or a sound effect. And I think next was the drums, so I think it's a snare coming in. So it's another open hi-hat to give it more groove, more rhythm, and I have it hitting on the end of a beat. So if you pay attention, so that way it gives it a little groove. Also, what I did sound cool with that loop is added another vocal stab. So it's like a vocal jab that's not even part of the sample, and I added different effects, so it actually complemented very well. So I'll play that. Jeez, I put a lot of delay on that. So pattern 12, let's see, I think it's this here. Yep. And that was track 12. So if you notice, I made a stereo separation really wide, so that way it goes left to right really wide. And I also added reverb. You know, these are the settings here if you want to check them out. It's actually a good amount of reverb here. Cut the lower, actually I probably cut the lows, yeah, in the parametric EQ 2. And also Fruity Delay 3, I added full on delay, and I use a ping pong delay, and it's panning not all the way hard left, but you know, half hard left. What percentage is that? 57 or whatever. So check that out. So what this vocal jab, obviously it's a different sample, but I did different processing on it, so it separates that from the first track. So it's something totally different. So you can do stuff like that with your beats with samples, because it just gives it that, you know, more complexity and another layer of dopeness, for lack of a better word. So next, I think I just brought in percussion. We'll see what this bottom sound is. I think it was another synth. And actually, I would like to know what that sound is, because I like it. Pattern 14. Oh, it's in silent 1. So if you want to see what that is, here's the settings right here. It is the LD, the lead, Panama. So that was the preset I used for that. And I obviously added probably some processing on it. 14. Just some reverb. So I added reverb on top of whatever effects they had on there. And I use that as a subtle thing in the background too. And if you notice, it's not playing that much, just in a few places in the beat, and just a few areas here towards the end. So after I did those little things, let's see, next is all the percussions. So it's a pretty straightforward percussion. Let's hear what it sounds like. So let's solo those. So if you notice, there's only a few elements in that, and it sounds really full. It's just because of the type of rhythms I chose. The kick is actually doing a nice bounce rhythm, and it switches up every 4 bars, 8 bars, I think. If I'm counting, no, it's 100 BPM. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 2. So it's every 4 bars I switch up the kick pattern. The hi-hat's pretty much the same. So it looks like I used 2 different hi-hats in the same pattern. This pattern. Let's actually choose a pattern. Pattern 9, please. And notice here, this is the actual pattern in the channel rack. And what I did, most likely, is use the wrench tool and shifted it off the grid just a little bit. So it gives it a nice little, like it's dragging, but it gives you that swing. And here's swing right here, but it gives you that swing that you can relate to, and it feels like mentally like you want to catch up in your head when you listen to it, but it gives you that, oh wow, this is nice. So that's important, shifting certain elements off the grid so it sounds more humanized. Also, let's see here. So I got the kick, hi-hat, and this was probably an open, yeah, it's just a cymbal. And that gives, you know, the listener, here comes another part. That part ended. Here comes another part. It gives it more structure, and also it just sounds a lot cleaner with this type of beat anyway. That's probably why I chose that. So as we get through the chorus here, the verse, check it out. What I did is just I did an EQ, what do you call that? EQ automation, where I lowered a certain frequency. So let me show you. Let's just solo those 2. So this is what you can do during the verse. Notice when I hit play, watch how these move around. So all I did is just bring down this frequency. So what that does, it's totally different when it was off. Hear how loud it is. So I took a certain frequency that I wanted to bring down. It gives it the illusion that I'm lowering the volume, but it's the same volume, but I took the energy out of a certain place in that sample. So definitely play around with that, man. You can do some crazy stuff with that. You can have this going up and down during the verse. You can change any frequency you want. You can make certain frequencies go wider. You know, automation is crazy, and it's easy to do. You know, in Parametric EQ2, all you do is right click any of these and create automation clips. So you can do that. So I didn't really change much in the verse. All I did is lower that and added some elements. Let's see what this is at the bottom. And usually when I create automation, I put it right under the thing that I affect. That way you stay organized and you're not confused. There's that nice lead. I love it. And this is what is this? Now you notice there's no 808 anywhere from the intro to the first half of the verse until the second half of the verse. So this beat, I chose to do that. Of course, you know, you can do whatever you want with 808s, but sometimes you can switch it up to keep your listener fresh. You know, they be like, wow, this beat is really good so far, and the 808 is just icing on the cake. I didn't mean for that to rhyme, actually, but you know, it's just something extra, and you're like, wow, that's amazing. So the beat was already slamming, so I was like, yo, let me add an 808 and see where, you know, where it goes with that. And I wanted to make sure it wasn't too much, but there was no low frequencies in that range. So, you know, you definitely want to experiment with stuff like that. So this is track 13. I'm curious what this is. So that is like a little transition effect. What I did, I actually just played a chord with a layered pad. It's very complex, and I added it just before the verse changed into the chorus, I believe. Let's unmute all that. Yep. So what I did is took out the hi-hats here and added that to show that, yo, something's about to change again. So check it out. Here it is into the second verse. So you get the point there, and that way, you know, actually that was the break before the chorus, I think. Yep. So you get the idea. You know, you got a break here, and you're letting the track breathe, and you're giving it various breaks, so that way when your next element comes in, it's that much more powerful. Also, that was actually the first part of the verse. This is the second part of the verse. And here's the chorus. I did the same gap here and added something different here. Let's see what we did. So I added a different pattern here with the chimes or bells, whatever. Check it out. So I just have that one pattern right before the chorus of the beat, and that's only time I do that particular pattern. So, you know, that's diversity, like I was saying earlier. And with this, so I repeated what I did earlier, but only added the end part of it. So, you know, when you're putting in your beats and song structure, you can always just kind of paint a picture and see what you want to do. Take things out, put them back. Yo, I don't want that. That's too much space there. And, you know, this happens in the studio all the time, especially when you have an artist on the beat and it just sounds too full in certain places, or they just want a certain sound to bring out the performance of the artist. So that happens all the time. So basically, that's pretty much the whole beat. We go right back into the chorus and a few changes in the second verse. And towards the end here, I think this beat, I actually let it die out at the end. I thought it was so passionate that it sound great with it just dying out with the reverb tail. So this is how the beat ended. And that beat actually is a little long. And you notice it went almost to 5 minutes, so that's a long beat, but it's R&B, so I would take out probably some parts to make it shorter. Just rethinking it, seeing it again now, but I made this a little while ago, actually over a year ago. So but the beat is still one of my top players, top popular beats. And you know, I thought people gravitated to it because of the way I chose the sample I chose, but also the way I added in the other elements and the way it's built, and also the sound selection, because I could have chose some really whack sounds that didn't go with it, and no one would like the beat but yourself. So, you know, you remember, you know, sometimes we tend to forget that we're making music for everybody to hear. You want people to hear your music, and you have to consider that too, you know. So if you find a common ground of, you know, exploring your creativity, but also, you know, connecting with an audience. So again, it's DJ Fanatic Beats, content contributor for Liveoffbeats.com. If you like to follow me, you can follow me on Instagram at DJ Fanatic Beats, or Instagram as well at Sounds for Producers. So feel free to explore. Remember sound selection, and remember to you can actually, you know, use this technique with your samples and come up with some really dope stuff. So speaking of dope stuff, keep making it. Peace.